Good morning, grown black folks talk. Creflo Dollar's non-apology apology and how we break that down for our use. Okay, now there are people, let me just give you a brief overview. Now there are people who have covered the doctrinal part. Now I'll put them in the description because they've done a better job than I can. But for those of you that follow Black church news at all, you will know already that Creflo Dollar, Pastor Creflo Dollar, after years and years of teaching very standardized doctrine about God's people being under a curse if they don't tithe, per Malachi 3:10. Ain't nobody read Malachi 2 down to chapter 3 to see who that actually refers to, but teaching that the people are cursed if they don't give a tithe, that they're robbing God. After multiple decades of teaching this, after within the past 15 years talking about he'd like to line up the non-tithers and have the ushers shoot them with Uzis, he just discovered at age 60 that he was wrong. He said he was confronted with the gospel of grace. And so he said, everything I've taught about it, every book, every teaching, every tape that you have, just throw it all out. And from what I've been able to listen to, he does, to my estimation, a 95% percentile of actually teaching it correctly. But I think I've said on this channel before, you know how rat poison is 95% good corn and 5% strychnine? We need to talk about the strychnine. Like I said, I'm not going to even deal with the doctrinal element. I have 3 videos in the chat of men that I respect who are going over the doctrinal parts of why this is not a good apology. I'm going to address this from a slightly different perspective because most of my audience, and I am also a Black woman, and what people know about us is that we are the people most commonly in church. And people know about us as a community that we have been churched. I didn't say saved, I didn't say spiritual, I said churched. And so there are particular kinds of manipulation that have become acceptable by men in positions of authority in church, and men in authority, not only men, period, in the Black community, and also men to the highest levels, including our present sitting president, Joe Biden, know that we are vulnerable to certain types of manipulation. So it is important. Now, this is not to say the men are not vulnerable either, because like men don't want to go to church, but then they support Umar Johnson, Brother Polite, and a number of other figures, Kevin Samuels, and many others who engage in similar forms of manipulation. So as a community, we are seen as weaker because we have plantation model church. And we are therefore used to being manipulated, lied to, and mistreated and abused in certain ways. This is not to say that every church practices this, but it is common enough so that what you see Creflo Dollar's non-apology today, you may be in your life being mistreated, neglected, abused. It's early in the game, and this person keeps telling you that they're sorry and they want to come back, blah, 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 blah. There may be a family member, there may be a work situation, and you're trying to figure out, you're confused because they're acting like they're sorry. Creflo Dollar does a clinic on the non-apology apology. And it breaks down into 3 areas. And I'm going to go over these briefly. But you need to recognize these. And the reason you need to recognize these, particularly if you are a Black woman, is very simple. If you are in a relationship with a man and he's telling you sorry, but he's giving any of these signs, this is what's at stake. Recognizing it earlier, every 5.5 hours, 4 times a day. And a lot of these people that are killing Black women, until they get good and ready to kill you, will walk you right up a cycle of inference. And if you don't get the signs early that this person has no intention of changing their ways and would not know sorry if it came up and bit them in the behind, this is what's at stake for you. Okay? So we're going to go through Creflo Dollar just from the viewpoint of how do you know? What signals did he give that you can look for in the rest of your life? Number 1, anytime somebody comes to you, apologizes, and says, I won't apologize, you can be sure that that person will not apologize. This man started his speech talking about he's coming in humility to admit that what he was teaching about tithing was wrong, but then had the audacity to say, but I won't apologize because if I hadn't done it that way, I wouldn't have been able to get to where I am now. We can stop the video right here. The way that you hear this every day is, I'm sorry, but. And I'm sorry, but is the same thing as I won't apologize because I'm going to justify where I am. I'm going to justify all the money that I took from all these people because that was the only way I could get to where I am now. I'm sorry, but your behavior made you hit me, hit you, abuse you, neglect you. It's your fault. It's anybody's fault but the person saying it. So what this boils down to very gently is if you have an apology from someone, and they put that but on there and make anything responsible but them themselves, they're not sorry. They may be sorry they're getting called to account, but they still don't feel any sense of contrition toward you. They don't feel any responsibility for what they have done because they're basically saying, I know that I'm wrong, but let me be right anyway. I know that I'm wrong, but let me justify myself to you as still right in what I have done to you. In other words, I know that I'm wrong, but I'm going to make it right because it's me and I expect you to accept that. In other words, let me be your little God. Let me be Satan. Let me continue to steal, kill, and destroy in your life. Let me continue to walk around like a roaring lion, frightening you, hurting you, abusing you, and taking advantage of you. Because I'm going to make myself right no matter what the situation is. And I won't apologize even though I'm trying to convince you that I am. You put a pin there. That's going to be point number 2. I need to back up with Creflo Dollar for just a minute. For those of you who are Black women dealing with men in church, understand this. If a man tells you that the only way he can get to the good is going through the bad, and he's a Christian, he's a liar. Our God is a liar. If you've been in church, perhaps you've heard of Psalm 23. And if you grew up in church, you probably had to memorize it. Verse 1, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Verse 2, he makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. Verse 3 is where the problem starts. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. You call yourself a Christian? Then that means that God knows how to righteously lead you to righteousness. So one of two things is going on with that blasphemy that Creflo Dollar has uttered. One of two things, and only two things are possible. If it is true that the only way that he could have figured out that he was abusing and mistreating and taking from God's people for 20 years, if he's right, then God is a liar in Psalm 23:3. Or God is correct in Psalm 23:3. And Creflo Dollar does not know him. Because if you know God, you're not going to ever get up and suggest that the only way you can find out what you need to know when you can read, you a whole pastor, is at about 60 is for you to have taken all this money from the people. The Bible clearly says, let God be true and every man a liar. So we know here, I won't apologize because this is the only way. That is a satanic level of not repenting. And when you hear the I'm sorry, but I didn't have any choice but to do this to you, either that person is a liar or God is a liar. There's only two choices. And if he's calling God a liar, he's on Satan's level. I'm sorry, but it's on that level because literally this person is trying to put up a standard of right where they could be right even when they're wrong. It's not on the high blasphemy level of Creflo Dollar, but then you don't need it to be on a high blasphemy level of Creflo Dollar for accepting that foolishness to get you killed. Which brings me to number 1. Number 2, we've already established that Creflo Dollar is a liar. If someone is lying to you while making the apology, they don't mean it. If they're still attempting to manipulate your emotions, then they are not sincere. It's not possible because, and that goes to number 3, but we'll get there when we get there. In the course of his sermon, he starts talking about how God's people are blessed and they cannot be cursed. And to this point, he's correct. But then he goes into classic fake tongues. I mean, just the ones that people recognize, the syllables that people recognize. Now, when I say fake tongues, I'm not trying to offend those of you who are Pentecostals, but you need to understand what's going on. That same Bible in 1 Corinthians, I believe it's chapter 9, says that, and Alan Parr covered this in detail. The beat by Alan Parr, it's in the description. says that the Bible clearly says that if there's no interpreter and you speaking in tongues, you need to sit down and be quiet because tongues are not to be spoken if they cannot be interpreted. So why is he breaking into this in the middle of this sermon? But he's supposed to be correcting himself because he knows that his congregation, which is of the Pentecostal vein, when they hear that, they're going to think he's spiritual and they're going to go up and worship and praise because they are sure now that the Spirit is speaking through him. He is correcting himself and lying and manipulating at the same time. Let me tell you something. I'm 41 years old. This is what I have learned about manipulative men and manipulated people in general. People will breadcrumb you with what they're about to fix and what they're about to do better forever and a day. People will breadcrumb you with promises forever and a day if you let them. But again, if someone is still lying and manipulating you in the middle of supposedly apologizing, they're not apologizing. They're just running their game. And that brings me to number 3. You know what you know when someone is sorry for what they did? They stop doing the evil that they're doing. They stop trying to run game. And their mindset shifts to, how do I make this right with you? They stop making excuses. They stop trying to run game. And they focus on, how do I make this right? If Creflo Dollar is sincere, within the next 2 weeks, these are the things that we should see. At some point, he should come out and tell his congregation, from here on out, we're only doing free will offering. Tithing is not even a category we're going to discuss because I just came and said that everything that I've been teaching about it, everything the church has been teaching about it for X number of years is wrong. So we're not going to continue that. It's going to be free will offerings. Okay. Now, there is something called progressive sanctification. Suppose Creflo Dollar just got saved. We have a couple of cases of this in history. When John Newton, the author of Amazing Grace, was saved, he was a slave ship captain, if memory served. So, first step in his sanctification is he decided he needed to read the Bible to his slaves. But as he was reading the Bible to the slaves he was shipping to make sure that they were saved, he began to be convicted. So the Lord ended up pulling him out of that business, but he still had some investments. And eventually the Lord pulled him out of the investments. And eventually John Newton died a preacher and an abolitionist. And one of his congregants was a man named William Wilberforce, who actually got the slave trade shut down in England. Mr. Wilberforce was in Parliament. So over the course of time, people do not always turn from their entrenched sins overnight. Sometimes it happens, sometimes not. Sometimes people are able to go cold turkey, sometimes not. But if we allow for progressive sanctification, the next logical step would be for him to stop taking up tithes at his church. The next logical step, according to Scripture, because this is supposedly a Christian pastor, if you read your Bible through and through, you find out some interesting things. When you misuse people's money and property, you're supposed to restore it to them. In the Old Testament, you have cases where you add the 5th part to it. Okay, so you stole $100, you need to turn back 120. You think you're getting off the hook because you know God is more merciful in the New Testament. Nope. Zacchaeus shows his repentance by showing up with fourfold. You stole $100, you turned back 500, and the Lord Jesus approved of it. So now you mess around with the people. You need to come up with a 5th or 4 times as much plus what you handed back. You're handing back with interest. So the next thing that has to happen is Creflo Dollar just said that, you should throw out all those books and tapes. Well, he ought to be offering a refund with interest. Because both the Old Testament and the New Testament, in the way money is handled, God has, the way the Bible describes it is in Deuteronomy, the Lord gives you the power to get wealth. And as you keep reading into the New Testament, the Lord gives people things so they may make it work for his service. So if someone steals from God's people, then what God understands is what they have lost is opportunity cost. That's money they can't invest in his service. Just like in the business world, money that you put in on a bad investment or money that's stolen from you or money that you spend on something stupid is money that cannot build for you in the future through proper investment. The Bible actually acknowledges this principle, which is why the Bible is pretty clear that if you steal, you have to pay it back plus some. So Creflo Dollar should be taking all those books and tapes he told people to go away, get his receipts, and give these people their money back plus interest. At least 20%, the 5th part. Now, he might have to actually sell his jet, $65 million jet, in order to be able to pay fourfold. But if he was serious about what he was doing, you would see him making this happen to all the people that have tithed in his church. And then the next thing, he would get so busy doing this that he also would realize, if we read a little bit further into the Bible, the next thing we would have to see him doing is, I have to step down from being pastor because it's going to take me the rest of my life just to make this right. Because I've been out here doing this for 30 years. And because of the magnitude of the millions that I have stolen from the people, I'm no longer qualified to represent the name of Christ in this position. First Timothy and Titus are very clear about that. He's disqualified. So if he is really converted, the Lord will lead him to make these things right by returning that money, and then he will retire and step out of the way. If you do not see those things, then he's not serious. Because when someone is serious about making things right with you, they prioritize making things right. They don't prioritize still being an authority over you because they failed that. Epic fail. They prioritize making things right and releasing you to go on with your life. And see, the reason that I am saying this is because many of you have situations right now, and I don't know when you're going to hear this. I did a video called, I don't know who this is for, but get out now. And someone came to me and said, you know what? That video was for me. I don't know who's going to listen to this, but somebody listening to me right now has a situation where someone is trying to work their way back into your good graces, but they're not trying to work their way back to make things right. They want to maintain a position in their life where they can take advantage of you. They want you to be submissive and subservient to their foolishness. And you can take this level as high as you want to go. Because on one side of the political spectrum, we have the sitting president that thinks he can determine whether you're black or not, depending on whether you voted for him. So that's how little he thinks of 47 million black people. But don't get comfortable, Republicans, because you over here, many of you were sold a bill of goods. You're the party of family values, and you have a 3-time serial adulterer who was still dealing with a young woman named Stormy Daniels into his third marriage. And you know that if you're a Christian, that if you were divorced for any reason but the other person's infidelity, you're in adultery. But you were convinced and manipulated by your politicians and your evangelical politicians. You were manipulated in the way that that's done, that this man could be acceptable. So don't put on airs about what black people are doing. I can read receipts for everybody up to the highest levels. People are manipulating the life out of this country up to the highest levels. And so you have to learn how to recognize when people are just trying to move your emotions, they're saying the right words, they want to move your emotions, and they want you to remain subservient to them. They want you to continue to allow them to do the evil that they are doing, and they may have some of the right words in place, but if they're telling you, I'm sorry, but if they're still manipulating you while they are supposedly apologizing, and if you don't see change behavior, and by the way, if you happen to be a woman and you see actually one of three should be sufficient. But if you should happen to see two of three and you realize you're still being manipulated, don't wait around for change behavior. Because again, again, I'm going to show it again because it's just that important. Don't wait for step 3. Because here's what goes on. In the absence of Roe versus Wade in many states, we spend a lot of time talking about what that's going to do to women. Well, it's going to do a lot to women, period. And it doesn't matter what race you are. Because women are going to have to make some very, very hard decisions because men are still going to want sex outside of marriage and without the responsibility. And many men do the encouraging of women to get abortions. So if that is no longer available, manipulative, evil men are still not going to want the responsibility of taking care of those children. So what's the only option left? The only option left is for femicide to increase. And in the black community, And then rape will increase because women will begin to think, I can't have sex with everybody. Women will begin to think more about, no, I can't. But then men still want it. And some of them, there will be an increase in violence just because of the loss of Roe versus Wade in states where abortions are not available. This is inevitable. So, because we can't do, removing the right for a woman to have an abortion does nothing about the men who want to still have what they want without marrying that woman. It does nothing about that. So here's what's going on. Before you get into a serious relationship, long before you lay down, and even before you're married, because there are men who will breadcrumb you all the way to the altar to get their way. But like I said, with Roe versus Wade being gone in some states, if a child is produced, there's no way out except to destroy the vessel the child is in. 4 times a day in the Black community, every 5.5 hours. And it most often happens when a woman is pregnant. That's already the situation. Now we post Roe versus Wade. So what you're going to have to do to defend yourself is catch those red flags early. The first time you let some man know that he did something to hurt you, don't get to number 3. See, the thing about it is people can change. John Newton is a good example. Sir Walter Jones himself is a good example. Sir Walter Jones and Kevin Samuels have a similar background, but they ended up going in different ways because one was forgiven by the Lord Jesus Christ and truly repented of his evil ways in his youth, and the other one didn't. And so one is still alive, still ministering, and the other one is gone. But do you think that, and I can say this because he's told the story publicly, do you think that the women who were involved in him decided to stay around and see how he did? You're not obligated to do that. The phrase is not in the Bible, but it's very good churchy phrase. Let go and let God. If you see 2 of these 3, I'm sorry, but still trying to lie and manipulate and get their way while they're doing the apology, run. Because that person, and I don't care whether that man is a boyfriend, I don't care what, God help you if this man is already your husband. And that's, like I said, this gets off into complicated weeks because there are men that will go up there. You may have to let that chain of inference go just a little bit further and separate if divorce is not possible. But I mean, literally, if you're hearing these things, you got a plan to get in the wind because, like again, post Roe versus Wade, this is even more serious than it was before. For those of you that are not attached to people, I don't care how long you've known that family member. If they have this habit, cut them off. Cut them off. Mother, father, sister, brother, son, daughter, cousin, does not matter. It's too dangerous a season. If this is a romantic interest, cut them off. Because these kind of people will kill you. And gentlemen, I'm not overlooking the fact that there are women that do this too. It's just that most of my audience is Black women. Cut them off early. Block, bless, block, change the locks before you get too involved. Because right now, with the recession, kind of, sort of, people are not wanting to admit it's going on, but it's going on, with people becoming more desperate. Uh, you know, when you see these things, cut it off early. And wherever you are, get out now. Get out now. If you're in a church like that, get out now. Anytime your pastor or person in authority, and let me tell you something. Creflo Dollar, Benny Hinn, there's been a couple of them recently. Don't stay where you're being manipulated and gaslighted and breadcrumbed. Don't do it. When it comes to church, your eternal life or death is at stake. Because if this man has been sitting around and he's just been confronted with the gospel of grace, do you know that he does not know who Jesus is and what Jesus actually did? And most likely is not saved. And if he's not saved and preaching the gospel, how that Jesus paid it all and thus took off all those curses. If he just found out at 60, everybody's been sitting in his church for the last 30 years and they couldn't have learned from him. People who lie and manipulate you want your soul and your life. to use up on their pleasures. If they get caught and it's to their interest, they may play at apologizing. But what's the goal? To continue to have possession and abuse of your soul and your life. So when you confront someone with their behavior and they give you an I'm sorry, but when you listen to them and you realize you said you were sorry, but you still trying to manipulate me right now, here's what you need to do. Disappear as soon as you possibly can. Do not even give people in your personal lifetime to do step 3 with you. Because if they are sorry, they'll fix it up. Let them be sorry somewhere else while you get to what's safe for you. And I'm not talking about this as someone who says this. There are a whole bunch of people that have told me what they were about to do sometime in the future. I've heard I'm going to do better for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And then after that experience, I cut that down to a couple months. And that's all you get from me. You keep telling me you're going to do better and I see something different, you're going to fix it on your own. And this is what you got to do. Because there are too many people in this world. And I should say for the record, you do have to account for the fact that a lot of people are growing up in homes where manipulation is what they see. It's what they know to do to survive. Creflo Dollar is an evil man on a level that is uncommon. This is what my father would call a matured son of Satan. Most people that you meet there are not. Most people are doing what they know. I'm not without compassion because, again, there are people in the world that all they know and all they've ever seen modeled is manipulation. That's it. That's all they know. I get that. I get it. I'm not without compassion. A lot of people want another chance because they honestly are trying to do better. And I get it. I get that. As someone who is a lay minister, I've given people more chances than they deserve. Because I remember being 20 and 30. And how, even with a good background, you do have to have time to grow. But here's the thing about it. When people get into the habit of thinking you're always going to be around, it takes people years. Let's assume Creflo Dollar is saved now for just a minute, because it could have happened, just like you wouldn't think John Newton or Robert E. Lee, Confederate general. You wouldn't think so. You know, the man who 3 or 4 years earlier was fighting to keep black folks in slavery was down praying with them to keep from getting lynched just a few years later. There's no telling. God can do anything. But unless God tells you to stay and minister to that person, you need to let go and let God and disappear and let God do what he's going to do. There are people that I still love walking around loose in this world. I have loosed them and let them go. People, plural. It's about 5 to 6 dozen at this point. Whole institutions and all the people that I knew from there. But in a circle of manipulation is only going to go down. There are people that I love when I realized that they weren't serious about what they intended to do with me personally. It can only go this way. There are people that I love that I realized were not serious enough about what they were doing to provide protection for me in the middle of doing it. And that I was wasting my entire time attempting to hold up what they are not serious in holding up. So it was only going to go down. And I chose not to go with it. I'm only going to go with you on 2 steps of that 3-step ladder. But I pray that people improve. You don't have to hate anybody to let them go. Sometimes you just need to get back out of the way. If God means to save them, he does not need you to do it. As Black women, we have to consider something. As long as a man thinks he's going to be nurtured and mothered, but see, because what they do is they tap into the maternal part of us that is wired to let a young person grow. Because we recognize children need time to grow. You can't expect a 5-year-old to handle things with the maturity of even an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old. But at some point, Black men are very good in tapping into that side of us that is maternal and that wants to take care. And so we give them more time than they deserve. Because again, Creflo is 60. If you're my age, the men you're dealing with are between 25 and 50. These are grown men. And sometimes we get in the way of them getting it together by coming and cleaning up their messes. We get in the way of them getting together by telling them, it's okay, baby. You know, you're going to get it next time. We get in the way of them getting it together by continually doing that. And who does it hurt in the end? They're going to roll on and do what they want to do without repentance. If a man who's not really sorry, a woman who's not really sorry, a person who's not really sorry is going to roll on and find someone else to do it after they've made a wreck of your life. And because we are heavily churched, people above Creflo Dollar in life look at him as a model of how to manipulate Black people and Black women entirely. And people who are your peers look at that as a way to, if Black women in church swallow this foolishness by Creflo Dollar, best believe it will be adapted by Black men who mean us no good. Best believe it'll be adapted. And this is why I am putting out this video. And like I said, if you happen to be any other races here, I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. Both have been running the same kind of game. And your church may be running the same kind of game on you because most word faith teachers are white. Creflo Dollar's mentors were Kenneth Hagin and Oral Roberts, not T.D. Jakes and Juanita Bynum. They're his peers. Three things. People tell you they're sorry, but they try to justify why they're right in doing what they did to hurt you. That's red flag number one. They continue to lie and manipulate you while they are supposedly apologizing. That's red flag number two. And red flag number three is no change behavior. But I'm telling you, you see 1 and 2, let God handle number 3 with these people on their own. Get out. First two red flags. You don't need to stay around and see the third. You know, if people truly repent, you'll see that they've turned around or not. You get on with your life and go do something else. You don't have to wait around to see. You have to, that's a whole nother video about giving yourself closure. But the first thing to do is get out of Dodge before it all goes to you know where. And in Creflo Dollar's case, and men like him, literally, people are going to follow this man into an eternal hell. Broke, busted, and disgusted on the way. And some of you listening to me, if you do not take to heart what I have said and recognize these signs, so are you. And it can be sooner than you think. Because no matter what you do to try to appease someone like this, it's never going to be enough. And when late in the game you do finally try to stand up for yourself, someone can smack you out of here because you missed the signs that that was coming. Please don't be the one. Listen to this video as many times as you need to. And as I said in the previous one, if you see these things happening, get out now. I'm trying to save your life. Again, I hate doing these grim videos, but there's a lot of grim stuff going on, and someone has to try loud and spare not. Now, if you want to get into the doctrinal angles, I have a video by Alan Parr, Walter Jones, and Justin Peters debunking this on a doctrinal level deeper than I have chosen to do it, because they're better Bible teachers than I am. If you want to get into all the details, but what I want you to know is, if you see the same behavior of people around you, get out now. Bless block, change the lock, get on with your life. All right, goodbye. Thank you for listening.